Hi, it's Martina here. I'm a psychotherapist and accredited cognitive behaviour therapist. So what I want to do is just share and reflect a little bit about, Kanye West's announcement that he is going to be running for president in the USA. There's been a lot of media coverage regarding this over the past couple of weeks, a lot of coverage regarding his statements, regarding the content of his press conference and the video. So for those of you who are not aware, within the video he was wearing a bulletproof vest and it had 2020 on, and within the conference video he was quite emotional at times. He was saying that he's only alive because his mum saved his life because his dad wanted to abort him, and then he mentioned about one of his children and how he wanted to abort his child, and it's only because of his wife, Kim Kardashian, that his child is alive. He was very emotional, distressed, erratic. He also shared that America needs to be saved. He made some references to abortion. And if I'm being honest, in the early days, I'd seen just parts of the video and the coverage online, and I wasn't really sure, and on the news I wasn't really sure what was happening, and I even asked a friend, is Kanye really running for president? And for myself, we know that the current president of America is not someone who all may have expected to be in that position. So when I saw it, I thought, well, anything's possible, but I didn't really pay too much attention to it. But as I spent more time consuming the media and researching into it, I realised that he is genuinely running for president, and I knew that he had a history of bipolar, or that he does experience bipolar. So when I actually looked at the video, I guess for me, as a therapist and just as a person, I felt quite mixed emotions, quite distressed for him, seeing that someone who is experiencing a mental health difficulty, mental health disorder, which bipolar is in the public eye. And there's been a lot of negative comments, a lot of memes regarding the content of his press conference. There's also been, I know there's been a lot of tweets on Twitter that he was sharing. Some of the content was inappropriate. I'm not really going to go into that. But my response was, a response of compassion and understanding, because if that was my family member or friend, it made me think, how would I feel? Because in reality, he's vulnerable. He's not emotionally stable at the moment. And when people have bipolar, when they have these manic episodes, which is what Kanye's experienced at the moment, people tend to lack insight into what they're experiencing, and that can heighten some of the behaviours that are observed. So they're just some of my thoughts and my reactions to the press conference video. I also put myself in the shoes of his wife and his daughter, and I can see why Kim is quite distressed, because at some point in the future, his daughter is going to see this, and no one wants to know that, one of the parents wanted to abort them. That can have devastating and traumatic impact on an individual. But I think we've got to look at it in the context of someone who is emotionally unstable, someone who's unwell. Just as if there was someone who had a physical, health problem, we would display compassion. For me, if someone has a mental health difficulty, they should be viewed as someone that needs support, that needs treatment and compassion, and that you should be attentive to their needs because they're vulnerable. That's my stance on it. So what is bipolar? There's a lot of talk about it in the media. There's a lot of news reports. So I just want to bring a bit of clarity for those who maybe don't understand it and are wondering, what is this all about? How do Kanye West's behaviours, how do they fit with bipolar? What are the characteristics of bipolar? So what I want to start with is just briefly talking about depression. So depression is a term that's commonly used. So with depression, there's unipolar depression and bipolar depression. So unipolar is when you tend to have the lows, you feel low in mood, a lack of motivation. Sometimes it can affect your sleep. You can have hyper insomnia, or you can have insomnia. You might have suicidal thoughts and also feel quite low and quite worthless. But with bipolar, what that consists of is mood swings. So you'll have the highs, which are either mania or hypermania, and you'll have the lows. So it's cyclical, it's up and down, and it affects people in different ways. And I think that's important to consider, because one person may be more able to manage their bipolar than others. One person may have more periods of a low mood, of depression, whereas another person may have more periods of mania. So what I want to do is just kind of clarify that and bring more insights into that. So if someone's experiencing bipolar during those periods of mania, so if someone needs to experience certain signs and symptoms for 7 days consistently. So they'll have an abnormally and a persistently elevated or expansive mood. So what that means is someone could have lots of energy. They may be quite irritable. They may engage in a lot of goal-directed activity and behaviour. They might have an inflated sense of self-esteem, so be really confident, grandiose. They may overestimate their abilities. They might be slightly more creative. You might see them starting, saying that they're going to create a book. They may have less of a need for sleep, a flight of ideas, lots of different thoughts racing through their mind, and it's difficult for them to keep up with the thoughts. Also, people may be kind of distractible. Sometimes people have got pressured speech, so they're speaking quite intensely. They might be loud and aggressive and shouting, and they may not give you an opportunity. Well, I say may not. They will struggle to allow you to respond. And if you interrupt them, they're more likely to raise their voice and be more elevated. And that pressured speech can consist for a long period of time. And also, in mania, people can engage in risky behaviour which is out of character for them, such as spending lots of money, maybe engaging in certain types of sexual activity which are not aligned with their values. There might be infidelity. So they're some of the signs and symptoms of mania. If someone experiences hypermania, it's more or less the same symptoms but over a shorter period of time, so 4 days. But for someone to be diagnosed with bipolar, there needs to be, these experiences need to have an impact on someone's ability to function. So someone's ability to engage with their day-to-day tasks, and also their ability to work or to maintain friendships. That's something that you would notice. So in terms of the memes that I've seen on I guess all over the internet, social media, Twitter, I just responded to it taking a neutral stance, because I acknowledge that everyone doesn't understand mental health problems or difficulties, and why should they, just as everyone doesn't understand physical health problems. So I try not to take a judgmental stance, but I think for me it's important to bring clarity so people understand that what he's seeing of Kanye West, what he's displaying is it's mental. It's a mental illness, a mental disorder. That's what you're observing, and the behaviours that is kind of displaying are part of that condition of bipolar. And he is in a manic period, and my understanding is that he's not really taking any advice from family members. That can be quite common when people are in that manic episode, and he's focused on that goal of running for president. So if you've maybe got a family member or friend in those situations, what I would encourage you to do is just to listen to them, to be non-judgmental, and to try and be compassionate. And I'd encourage you to gently guide them in seeking professional help, because there's a lot of professional help that's available that can help with reducing some of those experiences and those signs of bipolar. So medication's really effective in helping with the mood swings. So mood stabilizers such as lithium or antipsychotics or anticonvulsants, they're all effective in stabilizing someone's mood. And then also psychological therapies, which can help with how an individual perceives those kind of manic episodes, because sometimes people can view them as being, I guess it's a period where they're more creative and they're more innovative, they're more productive. So if someone views it in that way, they're less likely to want to seek help, because they don't want to lose that creativity. And that appears to be Kanye West's stance. But it's about creating flexibility in those thoughts and helping someone to understand that it's not that they're more creative, but it's part of the difficulty in helping an individual to consider how they can enhance their creativity, but in a safe way and in a way that's not going to have a negative impact upon many others. So that's what I would suggest. Try not to challenge in the moment, because when someone experiences that mania, it's difficult. They've kind of lost perspective, and trying to challenge it is probably going to be quite fruitless, unfortunately. It's not going to be fruitful, and if anything, it could cause more arguments or distress, and maybe heighten their disorder or difficulty. So that's what I would recommend. But I think it's important just to acknowledge that everyone's an individual, so the severity of the bipolar may vary. Well, not may, it will vary. So you've got to take that into consideration when deciding how to respond. But it's not easy. And for me personally, I have actually been, I've worked with some people who have experienced bipolar, and in the past, on reflection, I would say that I've actually been in a relationship with someone who's displayed some signs of bipolar, so I can understand to some extent how it is for Kim, and it is quite difficult when someone doesn't have that insight. So the final thing that I want to just share with you and have a think about is, how easy is it to identify if someone is maybe experiencing bipolar? Is it something that could be maybe overlooked? Could it just be viewed as someone being different or displaying strange behaviour? Excuse me. Or is it looked at in a negative way? So if someone doesn't understand that an individual's experiencing bipolar, that can just be viewed as aggressive. So Kanye West could be viewed as an aggressive, angry black man. In reality, that is not the case. He's a man who is unwell, who has bipolar disorder. He's clearly displaying the classic signs of bipolar. Therefore, what he needs is treatment, but you can't force someone to receive treatment. But I would say that it can be overlooked, because depending on the relationship that you have with someone, so for example, if it's for a friend, if you're only with them for a short period of time, you're not necessarily going to be able to put the dots together. You might just notice one or two signs of bipolar, then you don't see them again for a couple of weeks, so it can be quite difficult. And if someone's in denial about it, then that will make it even more challenging. Some people may try and cope with those experiences by maybe self-medicating with alcohol and drugs, so that complicates it. But also bipolar can be drug-induced as well, so it's very complicated. And then if someone doesn't have maybe insights into mental health difficulties, or if someone has their own mental health difficulties, some of these behaviours might be normalised as well. So someone wouldn't be encouraged to seek help. So there's some of my thoughts and reflections around Kanye West, his current experiences, and the bipolar disorder, the bipolar difficulties that he has, and how that's had an impact on him. I hope that's been helpful for you. Feel free to get in contact if you want to discuss it more. Connect with me on social media. It's Rafa Therapy Services. We're across all so many social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and you can also find me at www.rafatherapyservices.com. Okay, thanks. Bye.